Hey, I'm Dana.
I'm Matthew.
Welcome to our BookTube channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is going to be the Natural 20 Book Club, and you are watching the pilot episode and all the faults that come with that.
Oh, yes. So please bear with us, and we hope you come back.
Absolutely. Today we'll be going over just some introductory questions about who we are, why we like to read, and just
why
random
we're
stuff.
doing this.
Yeah, why two professional and adults in the workforce decided to start a random YouTube channel about books and reading.
Yeah. And this is called the BookTube tag. I think some other booktubers have done it before. I definitely saw another booktuber do this, and that's where I got the idea.
Awesome.
So we didn't make this up.
No, we're not that creative.
On the Google. So, yeah. Okay. We can just run through the list. And
see how this goes.
Yeah.
We apologize. Hope you enjoy.
I'll ask you a question, and
Okay.
then you can answer, and then I'll answer.
And then I'll ask you a question.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. First question. Why did you start this channel?
During D&D, which we play weekly together with also several other of our friends, we were just talking, and you said you wanted to start a podcast.
A Bookstagram.
Bookstagram, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's fun. And I was like, I think it'd be really fun to start like a podcast, like either like YouTube podcast or an actual podcast, but I have no idea what I would do. Mm. I'm pretty sure you said, why don't we do a booktube?
Yeah, you like to read. I like to read.
Absolutely. Because at that point, we had kind of started syncing up some of our book reads already. So it's not too far of a stretch to actually now plan to read a book together.
Yeah. Buddy reads.
From
here on out.
Mm-hmm. It also makes it so much more fun when I'm like, can you believe this happened? And you actually know what happened versus when I tell that to my wife and she's like, who are these people?
Yeah, it's nice to have someone to talk about a book and all the details and not worry about spoiling it for the other person.
Absolutely.
They haven't read it yet, so.
So, why did you want to start the channel?
Well, I've been thinking about starting a Bookstagram for a while. I am a huge reader. I read all the time. And my favorite thing is to talk about books. So
yeah.
The next step, obviously, other than pestering my friends about books they haven't read, is to talk about it with the people of the internet.com. So,
absolutely.
And you know, when we started talking more about books, and you know, which you said, we kind of joined forces.
Yes.
And it just kind of fell into place like that. So, yeah.
Awesome. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube?
I don't know. I think we have like an interesting like premise for our channel. Mm-hmm. So what I think we're gonna try to do is for our Nat 20 book club every month we'll have a book that we read together.
Yep. And
talk about. And that'll be, you know, the book club book of the month, and then we can talk about it with anyone who wants to comment. And I think that will be fun. And then also, I don't know of any other booktubers who like came together through D&D.
Right. Yes, that alone is very unique.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of like big fantasy lovers on BookTube out there. So I think it'll be fun to join that community too.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Like you said, we're going to try to theme like everything in a D&D-esque theme. Not that everything's going to be high fantasy or going to be...
all the books we read.
All the books we read is going to be high fantasy. But we're going to try to make it fun. Like if you are... make like each episode like a mini campaign or like a little story arc where we're talking about like our quests and adventurers and DM reads and things like that. So I think that's going to be a very fun, unique thing because you don't see like worlds crossing quite like that on YouTube as often. I think the only thing I could add to that is also we have some very different, interesting backgrounds for our professional career, which you know could add some interesting perspectives. Yeah,
and I think that kind of leads into the third question too. Why are we doing this? So.
Oh yeah. So
the third question is what are. Never mind. I picked the wrong question. I don't know what question I was reading, but it was not the right
Is it the first question of why are we doing this?
It's fine.
So why are we doing this? Going back, reverse.
Well, I guess it's also number 3. We're excited for this.
Yeah,
for this reason too.
Yeah, well, one reason we're excited is that we both work in corporate America in some way, shape, or form, and we both had expressed we needed a different outlet.
A creative outlet.
Yes, a creative outlet that we don't necessarily get at work every day.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing this gives us a chance to do reading, which is something we both love, some video editing, and some fun graphics ideas maybe down the road, which is some things I've dabbled with like 3D modeling and graphic design stuff. Also, like, with support of our friends. We had joked about this on D&D stream, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, yeah, let's go.
It seemed like every other week they're like, so how's
planning going?
How's it going? Are you filming yet? Yeah, it's been nice to have the support of everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it makes me more excited.
Why do you love reading?
Great question, Matt. I've always been a big reader. I thank my mom for that. She always read to me and my brother when we were real little. Mm-hmm. I think it stuck with me more than him. Yeah, I was always a big reader. I was that kid in class who was reading the book instead of, listening to
absolutely
the teacher, going to the library multiple times and getting the huge stack every time. I kind of fell off reading like when I got into like the later years of high school and in college.
Yeah. But
I picked it back up during when I went to law school.
Okay.
Especially during my last year when COVID hit.
Yeah.
I read a lot then.
Like, we read a lot for pleasure reading, not law
school.
For
pleasure reading, yes. Law school involves a lot of reading.
Yeah, like I know a lot of lawyers who say they go to law school and they lose their love of reading. Yes, so it's interesting that you gain it back.
Yes, well, I think I really needed an escapist outlet, which reading really provides for me, especially fantasy and sci-fi. And also romance, because that shit ain't real. But yeah, also I've always just enjoyed reading because it helps me, understand the world, understand different people's perspectives. I feel like it helps me be a more empathetic person. Yeah. So yeah, what about you?
Why do I love reading?
Yeah.
That's because, similar to you, this is a nice escape. Mm-hmm. I have a vivid imagination, but not necessarily the artistic skills to necessarily express it in some way. So reading a book, though, it doesn't matter how good a drawer I am or anything like that. I can visually see all the things. Mm-hmm. And so especially like reading like high fantasy books or books with really great like imagery written into like the author's...
A good map.
And a great map. It gives me a chance to really explore like that, the imaginative side of things, and try to visualize what's happening, and I can get lost in a book and into its world wholeheartedly with not too much of an effort.
Yeah.
I don't want to take a further question too far away, but I definitely also got into reading because started off my mom reading books to us and all that, and it just kept going from there, reading through many nights in middle school. My father used to work at the airport in St. Louis, and he would get up for a shift at like 2:30 in the morning. And I remember there would be nights in middle school where I'm reading, and I hear my dad get up for work, and I'm like, I need to go to bed and turn off the light now because like.
Did he ever like come in and be like, "Hey, go to bed"?
No, at that point I think I was living in the basement bedroom. Oh. So it was more I heard the footsteps, and I was like, turn off the lights, because he would if he left through the garage. I think there was a couple of nights he's like, "You awake down there?" And I was like trying to feign sleeping.
Just no response.
Just like, no, just left the light on. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, my mom would often tell me to go turn off the light at like, midnight 1 when I'm reading a book.
Right. So, I'm like, I can't. Yeah. One more chapter. Yeah, it's only one more chapter.
I was like, you do it too, Mom. Don't pretend you don't. What book or series got you into reading?
Going back to my mom reading, would be when I was real little. the Harry Potter books were coming out, and our neighbor, or my next door neighbor at the time, he was reading Harry Potter, and so what we would literally do every night from when I think from 2001, it was right around the time the first movie came out. We started reading the books as a family, and me, my mom, and my dad would all sit in the living room together, and for hours in the evening, we would just read through the Harry Potter books, and my mom would do most of the reading. As I got older, I started doing some more of the reading, and that just kind of spurred off the me just wanting to read, just like listening to all the names and that magical world come to life.
Yeah.
It was a really great start for me to want to go down that rabbit hole.
That makes sense. I remember my mom bought my brother the first Harry Potter book.
Okay.
Because she wanted to get him into reading. And at the time, well, I was like...
It was unsuccessful?
I was like 4. So
she caught the wrong kid.
Well, she did catch the wrong kid, but I think he did read all of them once. Okay. But I actually didn't read them until I was like 21.
Really?
Yeah, I just never picked them up. I was like, oh, those are Randy's books. I'm not gonna read them.
Isn't that funny how you make association?
Yeah. Which is funny because like later on, like my mom would buy him other books and he would like be like, hey, do you want to read this? I'll be like, yeah. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what it was about Harry Potter, but I was like, I'm not going to read it. Maybe I just didn't want to hop on the bandwagon. I don't know.
That's fair. So, like I got on before it was the bandwagon,
yeah,
right? It was the first movie, so it was starting to pick up a lot of steam.
Yeah.
But that makes sense if you were like really hit your stride after it was like the thing.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'd seen all the movies before I picked up a book.
Part of that what is that, like angst teenager energy?
Probably.
I don't want to be doing the popular thing.
I didn't know what I was doing back then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I don't know that I don't remember a book or a series that like hooked me, probably because I was young when I like was really into reading. But some series that stood out over the years was, of course, like Hunger Games.
Yes.
Loved Hunger Games.
Absolutely.
I read a series called Pendragon.
Okay.
I don't know if you've read those.
I have not.
I actually kind of took those from my brother. Sorry. They're really good. There was a series called Uglies by like Scott Westerfield, I think his name is. I keep hearing that they're gonna make like a movie or a show out of it, and I don't think it's ever happened. Yeah. But like just like some of those, quintessential like
starting series,
late aughts type of books.
I had like the Spiderwick Chronicles. I had Percy Jackson and the Olympian series.
That was another series I didn't read until I was an adult.
Man, you missed out. Now you understand why I love like high fantasy, because all these books that I read were you
had a strong YA fantasy background. I did read like a lot of just like kind of like slice of life books, I feel like, when I was like preteen into like early teen.
I got into more of those when I was like middle school, high school, when they had like those Missouri had like the Truman Reading Program. Oh. And they had like 13 books, and if you read a book, you got something at the school library.
Oh yeah.
And those like librarians and educators picked like 12 books for the year. Which would include some more of those like slice of life, like 13 Reasons Why, things like that.
Yep. That was I wouldn't know that I would call that one slice of life.
Well, I should say not fantasy book. How about that?
Okay.
If it's not fantasy,
General
it's a slice
fiction.
of life. Minor details.
Read the content warnings.
Yes. Dana's the expert on figuring out what something belongs to. We've learned that real quick.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like what a slice of life actually defined as? Like I don't know what any of these genres actually
That's
are.
Because I have to put it in a category in my head, otherwise it gets lost.
It's fine. I just read everything and I go, I hope I remember.
It's fine.
All right. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers?
So my absolute favorite booktuber is currently not making booktube videos anymore.
Okay.
Her name's Allison Pages. Definitely go back and watch her like backlog of videos. They're so cozy. They're so heartwarming. She's really just like a very welcoming individual. And I say that like I know her. I don't.
I mean, you know her online persona.
Yeah. She's recommended like a lot of really good books that I have loved. So I would just like ask to buddy read something with her.
Oh yeah.
Because I think she would be really fun to read a book along with.
Oh yeah.
So.
You answer that question very differently.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe this is just like the analytic.
Seeking advice or
yes.
Like, okay. What advice do we need? We need a lot, probably.
I was thinking that this is probably more generic YouTube advice than necessarily booktuber, but it'd be good to get a booktuber perspective.
Yeah.
It's like, it sounds so terrible. How to stay relevant? Like how do you keep the same energy going forward? Because like we're just starting out, we're really excited.
Yeah.
But but month 5, like how do we keep that same energy to keep editing
when
books?
We plateau.
Right. When the honeymoon phase wears off.
The honeymoon phase with booktube.
Yes, absolutely. When the real world hits and we have our jobs and we have life and all that, like how do you keep that drive forward?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Okay. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome?
See, I'm really great at starting things. And going and getting like start something, get like 50% of the way there, or do something really good the first time or two, and then it's like you're talking about you need to classify books so that you remember them.
Yeah.
I'll do something like twice, and then it'll be 3 months later. I'm like, oh, I started something like 3 months ago, and I'll forget that it ever happened. So probably creating a schedule and a routine that's manageable, but also remembering just to do it and stay on top of things and not procrastinating.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, I love to plan, but sometimes the execution does not happen.
Right? I can make a schedule for days. Doesn't mean anything on that schedule is going to get done.
It's so fun to plan and organize, I think. But, yeah. Hopefully with the two of us.
Right, there's some accountability.
We can push through and...
So, question 8. When did you start reading?
When I was a young girl. It's been a hot second since
when you were a wee lass?
A wee lass, yes. I was young. I remember, my mom reading like picture books to me as a kid. I've been reading for a long, long time.
You say that? I don't actually remember ever reading like picture books.
Really?
I'm sure we did. Like who hasn't? Rather even for my parents or preschool or something.
Frog and Toad or anything like that?
No.
Oh man.
I vaguely remember. I think we owned the books, but I don't have any like distinct memory of doing that. So that's so interesting.
Oh, they're very cozy. You should go back and read them.
Yeah. I would say for me, when I started like really, really reading, I won't count the pre-K books that I don't remember.
Fair.
Well, probably getting later into elementary school, like when I started to be able to handle like reading books on my own, like the larger chapter books and things like that.
Oh, I have a story about this. Okay. I will never forget this. I'm still pissed off about it to this day. And this happened in 2nd grade, okay?
Oh, yes.
So,
gotta love these old...
I wanted to read a Goosebumps book.
Okay.
Because I was like, ooh, this is like scary. I've never read anything scary. I want to try it out. And so I go to my teacher and to borrow one of her books from her like collection, we had to ask. And so I asked her, I was like, can I borrow this book? I want to read it. And she's like, you can only take it if you can read the first page to me without any mistakes.
Interesting.
And of course, being 7,
second
8,
grader,
like I'm going to not...
You're going to make
no
mistakes.
Yeah, like I think Goosebumps is probably like a 3rd or 4th grade reading level. So
it's also harder to read out loud than it is internally too. Like pronouncing words out loud versus pronouncing them in your head are two totally different worlds.
Yeah. So obviously I didn't read it perfectly, and she wouldn't let me read the book.
Boo.
So yeah, I never read a Goosebumps book because I was so butthurt about it. I will never forget that. Let your kids read the book.
Absolutely. Oh, you know what books that really got me started reading as well? What was it? Those Magic Treehouse.
The Magic Treehouse, yeah.
Like I remember like wanting to go through and getting all the numbers. Like talk about the creation of, I don't think I have them anymore. I think they got donated at some point through like, purging.
I read them through the library. I don't know that I ever owned any.
That's fair. I could have gotten a lot of through the library too, like through the elementary school library.
Yeah.
Those were great books.
They were fun. They were fun.
And they also taught you like a little bit of history sometimes.
Yeah,
They give you. It was a great way. Also, like I am a big nonfiction reader too for certain topics, and that's largely my history collection. But those probably Magic Treehouse probably started that too, wanting to learn about the worlds too.
Well, I think also a lot of fantasy has historical elements in it as well.
Absolutely, which also probably
it all checks out that.
So there's a reason why of my fiction books that 90% of them are very fantasy.
Yeah.
And Dana's gonna pull me out of my comfort zone. It's gonna be great.
Just a little bit, because I also you don't read a lot of sci-fi, and I enjoy sci-fi.
Not as much. I think I read a little bit more when I was younger, like because I didn't know the difference between sci-fi and fantasy. So
they are very close, yeah.
Right. It's just like, are there dragons or are there spaceships?
Fair. I personally
broad categorization there.
Yeah, I personally put sci-fi under the umbrella of fantasy.
Okay.
It's just like a subtype of fantasy. But I also like speculative fiction.
Okay.
Which I made you read. I see it right there on your bookshelf. Naomi Alderman.
The Future.
Yeah, The Future is great. She also wrote The Power, also great. But that's like a speculative fiction sci-fi type of book.
Absolutely.
So
that is true. That was a really great read.
Yeah, and I like it because like it makes you uncomfy in the fact that it's topics that aren't too far-fetched.
Correct.
Yes.
Like I think it's placed like 30 years in the future from today.
Yeah.
And while some of the things you say, oh, that can never happen. But is that just your mind telling you that it can't happen? Yeah. Or is it something that actually can't
surely
happen?
Surely people wouldn't let this happen.
It gives you that moment of doubt.
Yeah. And I like books that make me feel uncomfy, which I get a lot of people maybe are not in that same mindset. But hopefully we'll read a lot of different genres. Where do you read?
Oh, so I currently do what you're not supposed to do and read a ton from my bed.
Oh, I do that too.
They say it's terrible for your posture and your back, and even I have a backrest, and it is terrible for your posture and your back, and my back hurts after like 4-hour reading sessions.
Yes.
But that's where I do a lot of reading.
Well, I'll read in bed.
You also have a really comfy chair in your basement.
I do, although currently my basement, as you know, is it flooded this spring, so it's currently being reconstructed. So I don't have my normal book nook where I read set up. But I do have a really big, comfy, like chase lounge chair that I would typically read in. Now I read upstairs typically in my recliner, and I do have a lamp for myself that extends over that I got on Amazon for $20.
Look, I'll get it one day eventually.
But that's normally where I'll read, or I'll lay on the floor with my bunnies and shoo them away when they try to eat my book. But
that's fun.
Typically they just lay next to me and
I believe this is our last question.
Last question.
What kind of books do you like to read? We've kind of touched on this a little bit throughout, but we can go through some recent books too.
Yeah. Well, I've been trying to like really expand the types of books I read. Thank you. I guess if we really want to, we could pull up my story graph from last year, and I can tell you exactly what kind of books I read based on the story graph genres.
Okay.
So please hold.
Well, while you're pulling that up, if you haven't guessed this far into the video, I like reading high fantasy books. I will say mine has kind of shifted a little bit in the genre of high fantasy. I grew up as many young boys do, loving dragons. Mm-hmm. And so when I found, it was just like last year, I found like Barnes & Noble laid out like a fantasy table with all high fantasy books. And I grabbed basically every book that had a dragon on the cover. And I read the mess out of that. But then I ran out of books with like immediate dragons to read. And so I started reading some very different, talking about different high fantasy books, going from like that I've really enjoyed and it's also pushed me to the bounds of fantasy, getting more into science fiction and things like that, and wanting like, oh, this is a really good like way to set up a story.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm excited to get you into sci-fi.
Yes, I am. My wife will be very thankful that I'll have a whole new section of books where I can just bring home 10 books from when I go to the store.
I'm looking at your bookshelf over here, and it's only 2 shelves high. So I'm hoping that we can like.
Well, there's like all this is all just the fiction, and then there's nonfiction that's like piled because I need.
I'm saying we need bookshelves all the way to the top. That's what.
That's a summer project. That's a summer project. Okay. One day I'm just going to do it, and we're going to see what happens.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I read mostly contemporary fiction.
Okay.
Literary fiction. I read a lot of romance, although some of the books I think they put in the romance category are not.
Like real romances? Or?
Well, some of them, I read a lot of graphic novels as well.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, they're romance, but like I read all of Heartstopper, all that was out last year. And I would, yes, it's a romance, but also there's other themes in it. Yeah. But it's okay, that one primarily is romance. Okay. But anyways, I just need to suck it up that I read a lot of romance.
just let your heart what
yeah, it's fine. Well, honestly, sometimes after you read like a really heavy literary novel, it's nice to read
that is true.
an Emily Henry and just escape for a little bit into something lighthearted and sweet.
No, absolutely.
I read a lot of YA and historical fiction, and then I'll say my next 3 top genres were manga, fantasy, and graphic novels.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I think that's the end of our list.
That's our booktube, new to booktube tag.
Do you want to introduce the new book? Because I totally forgot to grab mine before we started.
That's okay. I managed to get the Barnes & Noble sticker off.
Oh, good. So
we are going to read The Book Eaters by Sunyi Dean. And this is one I had picked up a little while ago.
Yes.
And I had mentioned this. And I was like, what if we read this for our first?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and you were like, yeah, let's do it.
Sure,
so,
I think you told you were going to send me 3 options. You ended up sending me 4, or 4 or 5.
It's like, bonus book. But yeah, I'll just read like the little blurb at the top. It says, the truth is found between the stories we're fed and the stories we hunger for.
Very.
So, yeah.
Yes.
And V.E. Schwab, I think this is funny. Her quote on the front is, I devoured this, which I thought...
100%. Yes, I have not read it yet. And that's...
Me either.
But that will be our video for next month.
Mm-hmm. So read along if you'd like, and then come back and we'll share our thoughts, and we hope you share yours too.
Absolutely. Yeah. We look forward to...
How do we end this?
I don't know, right? We'll get better.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Subscribe, like, I think.
Subscribe, like. Yeah, do all the things that social media people who actually know what they're doing tell you to do.
See you next time.
Bye.